You should be grateful I even chose you, Claire said, her voice dripping with contempt as she stood in our kitchen doorway, arms crossed like a disappointed parent scolding a child. I looked up from the dishes I'd been washing, the same dishes from the dinner party she'd insisted on hosting, where I'd spent 4 hours cooking for her colleagues while she took all the credit. The words hung in the air between us like poison gas, and I felt something inside me crack. Not break, crack. There's a difference. I'm 43 years old. I've been married to Claire for 11 years. In that moment, standing there with soapy hands and a dish towel over my shoulder, I realized I'd been grateful for far too long. Did you hear me? She pressed, stepping closer. I said you should be. I heard you. I interrupted quietly, turning back to the sink. I'm just trying to figure out when gratitude became something you demand instead of earn. The silence that followed was deafening. We'd met at a corporate networking event back in 2013. I was a mid-level operations manager at a logistics company, stable, decent salary, nothing flashy. Claire was in marketing for a tech startup, all ambition and sharp edges, the kind of woman who walked into a room and immediately became its center. When she showed interest in me, I was honestly surprised. She was beautiful, driven, always 3 steps ahead in every conversation. You're different from the usual corporate drones, she told me on our 3rd date. You actually listen. I should have paid more attention to that word, different. In Claire's language, it was never quite a compliment. The first few years were good, or at least I thought they were. She got promoted twice. I supported her through late nights and stressful projects. When her startup got acquired and she landed a director position at a Fortune 500 company, we celebrated with an expensive dinner I couldn't really afford but paid for anyway because I was proud of her. You don't mind, do you? She'd asked, not really asking. That I make more than you now. Why would I mind? I'd answered honestly. Your success doesn't diminish me. She'd smiled then, but looking back, I recognize it now, that flash of something in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or disappointment that I wouldn't give her a reason to feel superior through conflict. The shift was gradual. So gradual I didn't notice at first. It started with little comments. You're wearing that to the company gala? Or, maybe let me handle the talking when we meet my boss. Then it evolved into her making plans without consulting me, canceling our weekend trips because something came up at work, expecting me to rearrange my schedule, but never doing the same. You're more flexible, she'd say with a shrug. My job is more demanding. I told myself she was stressed. That success came with pressure. That a good partner accommodates and supports. I was accommodating myself into invisibility. 2 years ago, things escalated. Claire started coming home later, sometimes not until 10 or 11 at night. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give one-word answers and scroll through her phone. We stopped having sex with any regularity. When we did, it felt mechanical, like she was checking off a box on her to-do list. Maybe we should try counseling, I suggested one Sunday morning over coffee. She looked at me like I'd suggested we join a cult. Counseling? For what? Because I have a demanding career? You knew what you were signing up for when you married me. I married a partner, I said carefully. Someone who wanted to build a life with me, not someone who treats me like an assistant. Oh, here we go with the victim routine, she snapped, standing up and taking her coffee to the living room. You're so dramatic. That was Claire's favorite tactic, reframing any complaint as me being unreasonable, turning my legitimate concerns into character flaws. It's amazing how effective that technique is when you're with someone who genuinely loves you, because you start to doubt yourself. Maybe I am being dramatic. Maybe I'm asking for too much. The dinner party that preceded the grateful comment was the culmination of months of this pattern. Claire had invited 8 of her colleagues to our home with 3 days' notice. You'll handle the food, right? She'd asked while putting on her makeup for work. Maybe that pasta thing you make? Everyone always loves your cooking. Claire, that's a lot of people. And I have that presentation for work on. Just pick up some stuff from the store. It doesn't have to be fancy. She kissed my cheek absently. You're so good at this stuff. It'll be great. So I'd spent my entire Saturday shopping, prepping, cooking. I made homemade ravioli from scratch because Claire mentioned one of her colleagues was really into authentic Italian. I prepared 3 different appetizers. I baked focaccia. I even made tiramisu. When the guests arrived, Claire greeted them like she'd orchestrated a professional catering service. Doesn't it smell amazing? She said, guiding them to the dining room. I've been planning this menu all week. I felt my jaw tighten, but said nothing. When her colleague Trevor complimented the ravioli, Claire smiled and said, thanks. I spent forever getting the filling just right. I was in the kitchen, listening through the doorway, and something in me went cold. After everyone left, and I started cleaning up, because of course Claire had disappeared to her home office to catch up on emails, she'd wandered into the kitchen and made that comment about gratitude. Now here we were, facing each other across a kitchen island covered in dirty plates, and I could see she was genuinely confused by my response. "What's that supposed to mean?" she demanded. "I have earned it. Do you have any idea what I've given up to be with you?" That made me pause. "What exactly have you given up?" "Opportunities," she said, as if it were obvious. "Men with better prospects. Guys who could actually match my ambition. I chose stability over excitement. I chose you when I could have had anyone." I set down the dish I'd been holding very carefully because my hands had started to shake. Not with anger, with clarity. "Is that really how you see this marriage?" I asked quietly. "As some kind of charitable act on your part?" "I'm just being honest," she said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. Maybe she heard how she sounded. "You know what I mean." "Actually, I don't think I do." "Explain it to me." She sighed dramatically. "Look, I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm just saying that you should appreciate what you have. A successful wife, a nice home, a good life. A lot of men in your position would be more grateful, more aware of how lucky they are." "And what position is that exactly?" "You know what I mean," she repeated, but wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when I understood. In her mind, she'd married down. I was her charity case, her safe bet, her backup plan wrapped in the disguise of a partnership. And she genuinely believed I should spend our marriage thanking her for it. I dried my hands on the towel and folded it neatly on the counter. "I'm going to bed," I said. "We'll talk about this tomorrow." "That's it? That's all you have to say?" I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. She was beautiful, successful, intelligent. She was also cruel, dismissive, and fundamentally incapable of seeing me as her equal. For tonight, yes. I walked upstairs, leaving her standing in the kitchen with her confusion and her cruelty. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed. Our bed, though she'd taken to staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning most nights, and replayed our entire relationship in my mind. Not through the lens of love or nostalgia, but through the cold filter of reality. How many times had I changed my plans for her? Hundreds. How many times had she changed hers for me? I could count them on one hand. How many times had I made her favorite dinner, remembered her important meetings, supported her dreams? Countless. How many times had she done the same for me? The answer was devastating in its clarity. I'd become so small in my own life. I'd compressed myself into whatever shape she needed, convinced that this was what love looked like. That sacrifice was noble. That wanting basic respect and reciprocity was selfish. By the time the sun came up, I'd made a decision. Claire came down around 7:30, already dressed for work, makeup perfect. She poured coffee like nothing had happened. "About last night," she started, in that tone that meant she was about to offer a non-apology. Maybe I was a little harsh. "You weren't harsh," I said calmly. "You were honest. And I appreciate that." She blinked, clearly not expecting agreement. "Oh, well, good. I've been thinking about what you said. About gratitude. About your choices. And..." She took a sip of coffee, checking her phone with her other hand. "And I think you're right. You did make a choice. You chose to marry someone you view as beneath you. Someone you believe should be perpetually grateful for your presence." Now I had her attention. She set down her phone. "That's not what That's exactly what you meant, Claire. Let's not pretend otherwise." I kept my voice level, factual. "And I made a choice too. I've chosen to stop being grateful for crumbs when I deserve the whole meal." Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I'm done. With this marriage. With being your supporting character. With shrinking myself to fit into your narrative about how generous you were to settle for me." She actually laughed. "You're being ridiculous. You can't just..." "I already called a divorce attorney yesterday afternoon," I interrupted. "Well, I sent an email. But I have a consultation scheduled for next week." The color drained from her face. "You what?" "You made it very clear how you see me, Claire. And I'm finally seeing you just as clearly. I don't want to be married to someone who thinks I should be grateful they chose me. I want to be married to someone who's grateful I chose them right back." "You're serious?" It wasn't a question. She could see it in my face. "Completely. Over one argument. You're going to throw away 11 years over one bad night." "It wasn't one night," I said quietly. "It's been 11 years of you slowly convincing me I wasn't enough. That I should be thankful for whatever attention you decided to give me. That my job, my interests, My feelings were all secondary to yours. That's not fair, she protested, but her voice wavered. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my day and actually listened to the answer? When was the last time you thanked me for anything? When was the last time you treated me like a partner instead of a convenience? She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched. I've given you everything, she finally said, and I almost felt sorry for her because she actually believed it. You've given me what you thought was enough to keep me grateful and compliant. It's not the same thing. She set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. What do you want? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. Can we please just move past this? I don't want an apology, Claire. I want a divorce. You're upset. You're emotional. Let's talk about this when you've calmed down. I'm perfectly calm. Calmer than I've been in years, actually. She stared at me like I was a stranger, and maybe I was. Maybe the man she thought she'd married, the grateful, accommodating, endlessly flexible one, had finally walked out the door. Fine, she said suddenly, grabbing her bag and keys. If you want to have a tantrum, go ahead. But don't expect me to take you seriously when you come to your senses. She left for work without another word, the door closing with a decisive click. I sat in the kitchen for a long time after she left, drinking my coffee and feeling something I hadn't felt in years, free. The next few weeks were surreal. Claire oscillated between ignoring the situation entirely and trying to convince me I was making a huge mistake. Think about what you're giving up, she said one evening, finding me packing some of my things into boxes. I decided to move to my brother's guest room while we sorted out the separation. The house, the lifestyle, everything we've built. You built it, I corrected. I just lived in it. That's not true, isn't it? This house was your choice. The furniture is all your taste. Our friends are all your colleagues. Even our vacation destinations are places you wanted to go. Where exactly am I in any of this, Claire? She didn't have an answer for that. The attorney consultation went smoothly. We didn't have kids, thankfully. The house was in both our names, but she'd made the down payment from her signing bonus at her current job. We'd figure out the division of assets, but honestly, I didn't care about most of it. I just wanted out. You seem very certain about this, my attorney, a woman named Patricia, observed during our second meeting. Most people have more doubts. I spent 11 years doubting myself, I told her. I'm done with that. Word got out, of course. Some of Claire's colleagues reached out, ostensibly to check on me, but really to gather information for her. I kept my responses brief and polite. One person who reached out genuinely surprised me. Trevor, the colleague who'd complimented the ravioli at that dinner party. Hey man, I heard about you and Claire, he said when he called. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, but also, good for you. Good for me. Yeah. Look, I've worked with Claire for 3 years. She's brilliant at her job, but she's also kind of ruthless about getting what she wants. The way she talked about you at work sometimes. He trailed off awkwardly. How did she talk about me? He hesitated. Like you were a burden. Like she was doing you a favor. A bunch of us always thought it was weird because when we met you, you seemed like a really solid guy. That night at your place, the way she took credit for everything you did, that was hard to watch. I thanked him for his honesty and hung up feeling validated in a way I hadn't expected. My brother, David, was supportive but confused. I thought you guys were happy, he said, helping me move the last of my boxes into his guest room. So did I. Turns out I was happy serving someone who saw me as a servant. That's harsh, but accurate. He cracked open a beer and handed me one. So what now? Now? I figure out who I am without someone telling me I'm not enough. About 6 weeks into the separation, Claire started to crack. She showed up at David's place unannounced on a Saturday morning. I was in old jeans and a t-shirt, drinking coffee on the back porch, reading a book I'd been meaning to get to for 2 years. We need to talk, she said, looking disheveled in a way I'd never seen her. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing yoga pants and an old sweatshirt. About what? About us. About fixing this. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. She sat, fidgeting with her phone. I've been thinking, she started. Maybe I haven't been the best partner. Maybe I've taken you for granted. Maybe. She winced. Okay, I have. I've taken you for granted. I've been selfish and dismissive, and I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. I studied her face, looking for sincerity. It was there, I think, but buried under layers of panic. Why the change of heart, Claire? Because I miss you. Because the house feels empty. Because, she stopped, tears welling up. Because I'm realizing what I'm losing. What are you losing? You. Us. Everything we built together. You mean everything you built while I orbited around your life? That's not fair, she whispered. It's completely fair. But I'll ask you something. Do you miss me, or do you miss what I did for you? She looked stricken. What's the difference? The difference is everything, Claire. Do you miss having conversations with me? Or do you miss having someone who handles all the boring parts of life so you don't have to? Do you miss my company? Or do you miss having a convenient plus one who never complains? Both, she admitted quietly. Is that so wrong? It's honest, at least. I set down my coffee. Here's the thing, I don't hate you. I'm not even that angry anymore. But I also don't want to be married to someone who needs to lose me to see my value. People change, she pleaded. I can change. Maybe you can. But I've already changed. I'm not the guy who'll shrink himself to make you comfortable anymore. She cried then, real tears that smudged what little makeup she had on. A year ago, those tears would have broken me, would have had me apologizing, comforting her, taking her back. Now I just felt sad for both of us. I'm sorry, I said gently. But this is the right decision. She left without another word, and I went back to my book. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Clean break, equitable division of assets. I signed the papers in Patricia's office feeling lighter than I had in over a decade. What are you going to do now? She asked as I gathered my copies of everything. Live, I said simply. Just live. I moved into a small apartment in a neighborhood I'd always liked but Claire thought was too bohemian. I bought furniture that I chose. I cooked meals I wanted to eat. I went on dates with women who seemed genuinely interested in who I was, not what I could do for them. 6 months post-divorce, I ran into one of Claire's former colleagues at a coffee shop. A woman named Melissa who'd always been kind to me at company events. How are you doing? She asked, seeming genuinely curious. Really well, actually. You? Good. I actually left Claire's company a few months ago. Toxic work environment. Sorry to hear that. Don't be. Best decision I ever made. She paused. Can I tell you something? At that dinner party you hosted, after you went to the kitchen, Claire was holding court about how lucky you were to have her. How she could have married some tech CEO but chose stability instead. Trevor called her out on it. Trevor did. Yeah. He said something like, that guy just cooked an incredible meal from scratch while working a full-time job, and you're taking credit for it. Maybe he's not the lucky one here. She did not take it well. I felt a smile tug at my lips. Good for Trevor. Good for you too, Melissa said warmly. You seem happy. Really happy. I am. And I was. Not because I'd escaped a bad marriage, though that was part of it, but because I'd finally remembered that I deserved to be someone's first choice, not their consolation prize. I'd spent 11 years being grateful someone chose me. It took me 43 years to realize I was the prize worth choosing. Sometimes the best decision you can make is to stop being grateful for crumbs and go find someone who wants to give you the whole bakery. Not because you demanded it, not because you manipulated them into it, but because they genuinely can't imagine anyone else deserving it more. Claire taught me what I didn't want. She taught me what conditional love looks like, what transactional relationships feel like, what it means to lose yourself trying to be enough for someone who'll never think you are. And for that lesson, as painful as it was, I actually am grateful. Just not in the way she expected.